Polls that have come out. David Ignatius is going to be talking about the ABC Washington Post poll. And it's very much in line with a CNN poll that came out this morning. And the numbers, again, David Ignatius, are just pretty stunning. In 1 year, Donald Trump's support among Hispanics has dropped from 41% to 26%. In 1 year's time, and I think that is troubling for a lot of states, but nationwide, this is the real troubling number. His support has dropped from 41% to 22%. So you're sitting there with 22% support among independents, from 22 to 25 Hispanics. There has just been an absolute cratering of support. And I think the most surprising thing is really no attempt to adjust the way they're approaching how they're doing business.
You know, Joe, he'll begin to adjust. He'll make it affordability day, and then that's blown out by return to another traditional Trump MAGA theme. It is striking in these latest polls. You see the constituencies that move right hard for Trump in 2024, in what was a striking election. All the arrows, as we remember, moving in Trump's direction, beginning to move the other way. And I've heard people who look carefully at polls say that everything they see suggests a broad movement across the country of distaste for what's going on. People just not comfortable as they watch ICE agents on the streets of American cities, as they watch tariff policies that they don't understand, but fear may be bad for their personal finances. So it's a real problem, in part, Joe, because it goes to key constituencies he won over in 24, but I think more broadly because it's just across the spectrum. There's movement away. You see that in the special elections, in the moments where we get to see voters actually voting. You know, I think the question Democrats will ask is, given all this, what's Trump and his team going to do to try to influence, arguably manipulate the results in the midterms? If they see a big blowout coming, how are they going to try to prevent that?
And John Lemire, let me just a quick correction. With Latinos, the support is 22%. With independents, it's 41 approved, 26% disapproved, 26 still terrible. His overall approval is 36%, and he is up in the low 60s for disapproval. Those are numbers that Joe Biden had at some of the worst moments of his presidency. And if you dig into the numbers, not only in this poll, we're going to be talking about the Washington Post ABC News poll. So much of it goes back to the economy, and Donald Trump is faring the worst on the issues that I saw looking through that Washington Post ABC poll on the economy and specifically on inflation. That's the thing he goes out and mocks. We have no affordability crisis, he says, but his handling of the economy, 37% approve, 62% disapprove. That's devastating for Republicans who have to run this fall. But you look at inflation, and that seems to be the main driver. And again, as we've said before, 32%, only 32% in this Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll approves of his handling of inflation. I mean, that's just as bad as it ever got for Joe Biden, and as bad as I remember it being for any president on this issue.
What were supposed to be President Trump's strengths, the economy and immigration, are both now really hurting him. We are seeing, of course, Americans on poll after poll broadly disapprove of these masked ICE agents, these surges into American cities, particularly what we saw in Minneapolis when 2 Americans were killed. And now we're seeing on the economy as well. President Trump dismisses the affordability issue. He's called it a hoax. He said he solved it. Voters simply, in economic data, disagree. That's not the case. And now there's the issue of the tariffs, where some Republicans, in the wake of the decision on Friday, quietly relieved, like saying, look, these tariffs have been a problem since his so-called Liberation Day last spring. Let's just let these go. He can blame the Supreme Court if he wants and then walk away from it because tariffs are, of course, a tax on consumers. They can be inflationary. But Frank Foer, Donald Trump, well, he's not one for resets. And he has said many times that tariffs is his favorite word. And that's clearly a very strange choice. But it reveals for a politician who has very few core ideologies, his belief in tariffs is one of them. And amid his blasting of the Supreme Court over the weekend, he's also vowed and says he's signing more global tariffs, going from 10% already to 15 and more and more and more. And you can just hear some Republicans slamming their heads against their desks saying, no, don't double down on this.
Right. It reinforces the Democrats' affordability message since tariffs are a form of a sales tax. And I think, just as bad for the underlying economic conditions is that you take something where business had made all of these careful adjustments to kind of reconcile their strategies in their supply chains to the imposition of tariffs. They're now forced to deal with another period of uncertainty where they're going to have to make all sorts of other adjustments to a policy that's now just as fuzzy as it was on Liberation Day. And so that's going to have rippling consequences that will make his underlying economic numbers even more problematic for him.
It is fascinating. Donald Trump has moved on so many issues, whether you talk about abortion. I mean, I could go down a very long list. But John's exactly right. I mean, he has always believed in tariffs. He's always believed that, in the late 80s, the Japanese were screwing us. Then it was Europe, and now it's China. This is a core belief of his that he has had for well over 40 years. So him adjusting midstream because the Supreme Court told him he needed to, that should provide little comfort for Republicans because it looks like he's going to stay on this, right? Yeah,
he does. This is I'll go to David here. This is something where Trump has made clear, David Drucker, that this is something he's not going to move away from. That he believes in tariffs, and they're going to find some other mechanisms to make this happen. His administration, they sort of saw this defeat coming, despite Trump's anger on Friday. And the Treasury Secretary and others have said that they're finding other levers to pull to put these tariffs in place. To be clear, those tariffs will also surely end up in court, and we'll see where it goes. But this is something that Republicans are simply going to have to grapple with as they barrel to the midterms.
Yeah, that's correct, Jonathan. Look, if Trump believes in anything, and he's very transactional on most things, but tariffs and his views on trade are something that is a visceral belief of his, as Joe mentioned, for his entire public life. And in this second presidency, the other aspect of it that drives him is that everybody has to come calling and asking for favors and handouts on bended knee. And he's really run this administration, like a personalist, right? And if he likes your attitude and if he likes the way you treat him, he's going to cut you, somewhat of a deal, even though you never know, how dry the ink is with Donald Trump. Republicans that I talk to that have been doing this a long time know that they are in trouble in part because of the tariffs, because while it hasn't sunk the economy, it certainly hasn't unleashed growth, and it hasn't inspired confidence in a majority of American voters. And that's the problem, right? A year plus in now to the second term, if voters had confidence that this was headed in the right direction, their opinion of his handling of the economy and of his leadership would be different, and they'd be in a different place, regardless of the stats. But they're not. And, when Frank was discussing this a second ago, right below him on the Chiron, it said 32% of voters think that Trump's focused on the right priorities. That's a killer. The other problem he has is independence. And in midterm elections, especially, in all elections, but particularly in midterm elections, we've talked about this at this table, independents are the whole ball game. And so unless things change, and they probably have a good 5.5 months before the cake is really baked, they're in for a world of hurt, and you go from just monitoring the House of Representatives to see how many seats are going to flip
right.
to watching to see if the Senate will follow the House with it.